Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be doing an updated version of my sensitivity and settings, and due to the fact that Season 5 is about 48 hours away from going live at the time I'm making this video, these are definitely going to be the settings that I use for the new season. I've actually changed a couple different things in here, which is way more than I typically do when I make one of these videos each season. I made a couple sensitivity changes towards the middle of Season 4, and then I made a few other ones roughly 1 to 2 weeks ago. So obviously that'll all be shown in here, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so as we usually do in these videos, let's go category by category here, starting with non-ADS sensitivity. So in the non-ADS section, this is one of the first small sensitivity changes that I made. I went from 38% horizontal, 36% vertical, to instead now I'm on 39% horizontal and 38% vertical. I've always been a player that's used sensitivity values that were a bit on the lower side, especially with non-ADS sense, and recently I was looking at the sensitivity values of a lot of the other controller pros out there. It just seemed like having non-ADS values close to the mid-30s was lower than pretty much any other pro in the world. So obviously I didn't make a huge jump, only increasing the horizontal by 1% and the vertical by 2%, but that's the way to do it, at least in my opinion. I spent the last couple weeks getting used to this smaller increase, and so far I've really liked it, so it is possible that in 2 to 3 weeks I sit back and maybe think about doing another small increase, but that's not really something I'm super worried about right now. And of course, as always, I'm still not using any boosts in this section, and I can almost guarantee you that's something that'll never change because nobody really does. The next sensitivity category here is ADS sensitivity, and this was another area where I made a slight change as well. Last season I used 14% for both horizontal and vertical. Now I've bumped that up to 16% for each. If any of you remember, roughly 6 to 8 months ago when I was first using linear, I used an absurdly low ADS sense. I legitimately think it may have been like 8% or something crazy like that. And at that time I used such a low ADS sense because I hated the way that AR aim felt on linear, so my mindset was basically the lower the better. But over time, I've started to raise those ADS values about 1 to 2% per season. I just think that using such a low sensitivity may have actually been my problem all along. Obviously, I don't think my AR aim is as good as it was on Legacy, and it'll probably never reach that level in all honesty, but I just feel so much more comfortable in medium range AR fights now than I did back in seasons 2 to 3 or whatever it was. So I don't think I'm going to go any higher than 16, at least not anytime in the near future, but I think this is a good example of how a sensitivity change can really help you break through a certain mechanical skill plateau. And of course, also using no boosts in here either, and in all likelihood never will. The final sensitivity category that people care about is building and editing sensitivity, and I also made a slight change in here as well. So this one is a bit interesting because in my last sensitivity video, I was using 2.0 for building sense and then 2.2 for editing sense. Then towards the beginning of the season, I don't know if I showed you guys this, but I actually tried to raise those values a little bit. I believe I went to 2.2 building and then either 2.3 or 2.4 for editing. Now I'll be honest, I didn't feel super comfortable with the change even from the beginning, and then when I raised my non-ADS sense, which of course does affect the building and editing multiplier, it basically went from a little uncomfortable to just flat out ugly. I was messing up builds, messing up edits. There was a 2 to 3 day stretch or so where watching me play was not a pretty sight to say the least. So that's when I decided to actually go down to 2.0 for both building and editing sense. I've actually seen a slight trend recently with people lowering their building and editing sense, and I've heard some pros say that they feel doing so makes their building and editing more consistent. So that was basically my main motivation with this change, and I have absolutely no complaints so far. I wouldn't rule out raising it a tad bit in the future, but I'm probably never going past 2.2 again because I just couldn't control that. Then real quick in the advanced sensitivity section, I don't really have very much to say here. Still using a 0-second look dampening time, and that's another thing that's probably never gonna change. For dead zones, I'm using 12% for both the move stick and look stick dead zone. I'll be honest, I'm not sure if that's different than the last time I showed them off, but I don't believe so because I've definitely kept this the same for a while. For dead zones, it's as simple as going as low as you can without getting stick drift, and at least for me and my thumbsticks, that just happens to be 12%. And the final item in the sensitivity section is foot controller. This is a sensitivity that I used when it first came out in like season 8 or something, but then I turned it off when Legacy got removed, which I believe was chapter 2 season 2. But then last season I went back to using it because I saw some pros doing so. I'm still not sure how much of an effect it has, but some people out there literally swear that it makes their aim smoother, so my mindset is basically why not? As I've said many times before, this is only available on PlayStation and PC for some reason, so I'd recommend using it if you're on either of those platforms, and if you're on Xbox, sadly, you're not going to have the choice for whatever reason. Alright, so that covers all the sensitivity stuff that I use. Now let's get into the settings. I'll try to go through this relatively quickly, just pointing out any that I think are somewhat important. In the video section, I use 105% brightness and I have colorblind set to off. I did use colorblind 1 to 2 seasons ago, but most of them have been pretty heavily nerfed, so it seems like having it off is the best bet right now. And then you obviously want to have motion blur off as well. Moving on to the game settings, with movement, the important ones here are sprint cancels reload. I have that off because it can be kind of annoying. And then auto open doors is good for when you're tunneling, you mess up a bottom corner edit, and it makes a door. In combat, I like hold to swap pickup to quickly upgrade the weapon I'm holding with floor loot, especially in the beginning of the game. And then auto sort consumables is a nice convenient setting as well. In combat, the first two are obvious, and I do use confirm edit on release, but that setting is basically totally up to preference. Some people love it, some people hate it. And then the other important one here is tap to search/interact, which I do have on. The other miscellaneous settings that are kinda important are HUD scale, which I have set to 85%, vibration I have off, which is something that pretty much all the top controller players do, and then I have 3D headphones and visualize sound effects both set to off as well. I know some people like visualized sound effects, but to me, honestly, it just kind of clutters your screen, and there's a rumor that it also drops your FPS. So that covers settings, and now I'll just show my binds on the screen as I wrap up this video. I don't really feel like reading off each one because they're pretty self-explanatory as a whole, and I haven't changed them in a while, so I'll just close this out while they're shown on the screen. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down in the comment section below. Season 5 is right around the corner, as I said in the beginning, so I want to know, on a scale of 0 to 10, how excited are you for the new Fortnite season? Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.